Lesson 3 is artists use different processes to make their art. The additional standards are art use bilateral symmetry to create balance, and the Common Core standard is divide circles into 2 equal parts, use the terms half of and halves. Our vocabulary: texture, collage, crayon resist, texture rubbing, abdomen, half of, halves, process, thorax, antennae. Process is the way we use a medium in making art. There are a number of different ways we can use any medium. The artist whose work we're going to look at today is Eric Carle. Does anybody remember who that is? Exactly. He wrote The Very Hungry Caterpillar. Now people write books about him. Eric was born in Brooklyn, New York, and when he was 6, his family moved to Germany, and he went all through school in Germany, but when he finished art school and college, he came back to New York, and he went to work for an advertising agency. Do you know what that is? Eric had a friend named Bill Martin Jr., and Bill came and asked Eric if he would do the illustrations for a children's book he wanted to write. And that book was Brown Bear, What Do You See? And soon Eric decided that he was going to make his own books, and that's when he wrote The Very Hungry Caterpillar. Now he's written over 60 books, and his work is in museums all over the world, and he even has his own museum that shows artwork from lots of illustrators of children's books. He uses a technique called collage. He actually cuts out the individual pieces and then glues them all together. When you cut paper in little pieces and you glue them all together, that's called collage. And you know what else? He makes his own paper. Here he is making his paper, and that's what we're going to do right now. For the crayon rubbing, you need peeled crayons, something with texture. An old placemat's good. I make my own texture boards with glue and cardboard. If you haven't any of that, have them take off a shoe and use the bottom of their shoes. To make the texture rubbing, we put the texture under the paper, take a color, use it on its side. Let's try some more of this. And let's try the spiral. Maybe a little more. And let's try this one. Dots and curved lines. And I do overlap them so that there's not a break and it doesn't look like they've been color blocked. And I do need to tell them most of the time that they need to not put too much on, or we won't have any space for the paint to stick. So I just get a few colors on. And I like yellow, so I make sure that I also put some yellow on each one. It's a good idea to turn the yellow over and clean it. And then just put some all over. And yellow always kind of picks up the color of everything. Then, for the white, again the same thing, clean it on the back. I change texture boards again. And I'm just going to put a little bit of white on because it just kind of adds life to it. And of course we don't see the white until we paint over it. And that's it. To set up the crayon resist, I just use cups that I can cap and uncap, and pop out watercolors and put them in water. These are already made. And I set it up. I have one table pulled out that I can, 3 children can stand on one side, 3 children can stand on the other. I put 2 cups with 3 brushes each in it, and they have to go in a specific order. It has to be yellow, then the red, orange, then the magenta, then the blue. Otherwise, you're going to end up with muddy gray colors. So they are in groups, and everybody starts at yellow. While I'm making my sample, I'll act out being in a group. Group 1 goes to yellow. I give them about 40 seconds. We talk about the fact that you want to make sure that you're not putting a color right on top of another color or itself. But also with yellow, we have to plan ahead. Where do we want some green? Well, we have to paint that yellow because later we'll add a little blue and that will become our green. And then our whole group goes together to red-orange. And we can put our red-orange wherever we want. I like to overlap the colors somewhat. And hopefully they will too. And so we get a little red-orange around. Oops, it's time for my group to go to magenta. So the whole group goes together and we go to magenta. Now we have to stop and think about where we would like to have purple, because we have to put magenta there and we'll add blue to it later so that we have purple. So there's the magenta, and then our whole group goes to blue, and then I think I wanted some purple here, and maybe some here, and then maybe I want to, yes, I think I'll turn that into green, and maybe some of this into green since it's on top of red. That's a complementary color. It looks good. Put some more blue here. I still want to be able to see some blue. And make it very clear that they should not leave any white showing other than the white that's showing where they may have put white crayon. And let's get up here and have some blue and green. Take a last look and see if we've got everything covered. Looks like it. And that's it. I explain crayon resist as resistors want to stay away from something, like something that doesn't taste good. You want to stay away from it, you resist. And I explain that all living things have wax on them, and so we make crayons from the wax from grass. And crayon resists water, and our paint is watercolor. So that's why we can paint over it, and it doesn't cover our crayon. So that's called crayon resist. Before beginning, we go through the book, The Very Quiet Cricket, and look at Eric Carle's insects and his different collages. And then we talk about how many legs the insects have and the parts of their body, the head, the thorax, and the abdomen, so that we can draw those parts. I put some samples on the board so they can see different ways of creating the wings and the body of the bug, insect. First, we fold down one of the short edges of the rectangle, just about that much, and we draw the head. We overlap and draw the thorax. We overlap and draw the abdomen. And we're only drawing half of it so that we can have perfect symmetry when we cut it out double. So we're going to cut out our insect, and we only see half of him. There we go. And now 2 halves make a whole, since we had him doubled. Now we glue our insect body, trying to center it on the paper. And with that, we use white crayon to create their big eyes. They have eyes that are very large and round. I put a little tic-tac-toe thing in the middle to create the look of facets. And we make the antennae. They know the word antenna generally, but they don't know the plural for it, so I teach them that. And then we do a step-by-step on the legs where we go out. There are two legs coming out from the thorax. We extend and then go up. And four legs coming out from the abdomen. So we've got that done. We do those before we put on the wings because we're doing a top view of the bug. The wings, we fold the rest of the paper in half, and some of them are going to get creative, but most of them are going to be able to do pretty much raindrop type wings. And we cut those out. I have to make sure they understand that they're cutting two at a time, and that way we maintain our symmetry. And also, it's very important to stress that the wings are all attached at the thorax. And with that, we have our Eric Carle bug. Now we review the vocabulary, especially crayon resist and crayon rubbing, and find out if everybody understands what we did and what our media were, and we're ready to move on. As soon as I let you know that the crayons I use on this project are construction paper crayons, if you can get some, they really, really show up on black construction paper. Our second lesson is artists use